Okay, I think we're ready to start then. This public meeting of the Board of Education's Policy Committee for February 23rd, 2026 is called to order. Thanks for being on time. Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you all for being here. Today's agenda includes a student presentation on a proposed policy, a review of revisions to the public contracting rules, a discussion to begin review of the community policies in our board policy manual. And I want to first begin with introductions. Maybe we'll start at this end.
Patty Sullivan, board member.
Eddie Wong, board chair, but just visiting this committee.
Rochelle Chase Miller, committee member.
Michelle DePass, vice chair.
Hi, Stephanie Engelsman, board member.
I'm Nora Isles, and I'm a district student council representative.
Emily Courtnidge, Senior Legal Counsel.
Sharon Tancre, Chief Legal Officer.
Roseanne.
Roseanne Pell, Board Manager.
Thank you. So next we're going to start with public comment. We have 5 people signed up and 1 on the wait list. There are 4 slots. All 4 are on the same topic. Do you want to self-choose? All 4, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or would you like me to make an exception to allow the 5th one? They're 2-minute testimonies, so we can just add the entire list. And we have 2 people that are virtual, Mandy Green and Kelsey, I can't read that actually. Furuta? It's very small, it's a little blurry. Why don't we start with Mandy Green? So if you'll just state your full name, spell your last name, and then you've got 2 minutes, and there's a timer in front of the dais there. Why don't we call the first 3? Mandy Green, who's virtual, Kelsey Furuta, and then Alicia I'm sorry, just those 2, please. Sorry about this. Mandy, do you want to go ahead? Mandy Green?
Thank you. Yes, my name is Mandy Green. I work in public health as a consultant and epidemiologist, and my child attends Benson Polytechnic High School. So our speakers today are going to talk about how our policy additions would protect students and staff from wildfire smoke and also diesel pollution. And you might wonder, why are supporters of safe indoor air for Oregon schools talking about outdoor air pollutants? And so what I wanted to comment is just, did you know that most of our exposure to outdoor air pollutants occurs indoors? And did you know that outdoor air pollutants that infiltrate into our buildings then become indoor air pollutants? We spend about 90% of our time indoors. Dr. Joseph Allen, head of Harvard's Healthy Buildings program, speaking at the White House Summit on Indoor Air Quality, challenged people to think about that 90% differently. He said, take your age and multiply it by 0.9. That's how many years you've lived indoors, your indoor age. So if you were 47, you would have spent 42 years of your life indoors, in homes, apartments, schools, airplanes, trains, buses, etc. Thinking of it this way, it becomes obvious and intuitive that the indoor environment has an outsized impact on our health. The person who manages your building has a greater impact on your health than your doctor. Staff and students commonly spend 1/3 of their day inside our school buildings. These policy additions would provide board-level guidance for moving our schools towards the type of clean air we need to reduce chronic diseases like asthma, heart disease, and lung disease. These policy additions would provide board-level goals for the indoor environment where our kids and teachers spend so much of their time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mandy Green? Oh, I'm sorry, Kelsey Furuta?
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Furuta, she, her. I have a 6th grader at Mount Tabor Middle School, and my younger daughter, Kina, is a kindergartner at Richmond Elementary. Today, you're hearing testimony from longtime air quality and environmental advocates and public health professionals, all supporting the environmental health policy additions our group developed with Board Chair Eddie Wong for the Policy Committee. I want to speak in support of these policy additions as Keena's mom. Keena has several anaphylactic food allergies. Allergies like Keena's put kids at higher risk of respiratory infections and complications from those respiratory infections. It's been great to work with 2 schools alongside other air quality parents and Dr. Greathouse. We've helped principals and teachers understand our school's poor ventilation and how to improve it by requesting second air purifiers. We're also supporting teachers with practical guidance on clean air benefits, effective settings, and other hands-on air quality help. I'm asking the board members here to support us in turn. These proposed policies for clean indoor air will make sure that PPS better supports families and school leaders in making clean air a consistent district-wide goal. I also strongly support adding our group's policy language for addressing how hot our buildings get in heat waves. Keena's life-saving emergency epinephrine must be kept between 68 and 77 degrees. Yet at the start of this school year, our building temperatures ranged from 84 to 91 degrees. With 1 in 13 children affected by food allergies, the nurse's office stores a huge big box of critical medications for multiple students. For weeks, these medications were kept well above their safe temperature range, putting our students at unnecessary risk. Please add these much needed safe indoor air goals to our climate and sustainability policy. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have, and you can come up at the same time, Alicia Cohen, Celeste Lewis, and Amy Farrell. Again, you have 2 minutes. If you'll just state your first name and spell your last name. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Alicia Cohen, A-L-I-C-I-A, Cohen, C-O-H-E-N, and I'm going to talk about air quality and education outcomes, learning outcomes, as well as health outcomes. And I am a Benson mom, and I also am the founder of Wood Smoke Free PDX. We work with Multnomah County to upgrade the wood smoke curtailment ordinance, and we were successful in doing that. But one of the things we talked about a lot was return on investment, and this amazing data on the incredible return on investment, air quality at the national, international, local level it's like $30 for every $1 invested. So I'm going to begin with that, but real quick, let me say, wood smoke is the leading source of fine particulate pollution in our region. Increasing wildfires exacerbate this burden. PM 2.5 is a leading cause of public health harm. In fact, even incremental rises in particulate matter map precisely with rises in emergency room admissions here in Portland. In other words, exposure to air pollution makes us sick in a very immediate and well understood way. So decreasing PM 2.5 in our schools promises outside benefits in student health and therefore attendance. That's for me like a big ROI. Like this is a cheap way to achieve a longer school day in effect, if you know effectively. The benefits for teachers and students can hardly be overstated. It's one of the most cost-effective ways to lengthen PPS's instruction time. But I would also like to highlight and argue for the cognitive benefits of clean air. We know that cognitive outcomes are quite stunningly and radically improved with lower PM 2.5. Cleaning the air is an enormously cost-effective way to improve test scores and learning outcomes. Okay, so in just one study, and there's like massive data on this. Okay, I'm almost done.
I'm sorry, can I have you wrap
Yes.
up since we're allowing extra
in
testimony?
2023, scientists ran analysis measuring the impact of cognitive games across more than 4 million players against pollution data across the U.S. What they found was that even small increases in exposure to PM 2.5 showed lower scores in cognitive function. What we know is that by simply cleaning the air in our classrooms, we can expect students not only to be in class more frequently, but to do better in their studies. Clean the air and improve health and brain function. This is an enormous opportunity for PPS to improve student outcomes across the board in a most cost-effective manner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amy Farrell, Amy, A-M-Y, Farrell, F-E-R-R-I-E-L-L. My kids are at Woodlawn and Ockley Green, and I have 2 stepkids at McDaniel and Sunnyside. I work in healthcare and public health. As a public health professional, I want to speak to the respiratory illnesses that our policy additions are designed to prevent. Every winter in PPS, we see waves of common cold, influenza, RSV, COVID-19, and strep infections that follow viral illness. These are all viruses that spread efficiently and easily through the air. They spread primarily through infectious aerosols we all breathe, talk, cough, and sneeze into the air. Common cold send kids home, causing missed school. And in a school community, there's no such thing as just a cold. For students with disabilities, for families with asthma, for multi-generational households, a cold virus often means asthma attacks, doctor's office visits for breathing treatment, and secondary infections that put vulnerable family members at risk. Influenza is the leading cause of pediatric hospitalization and results in hundreds of hospital admissions every year in Oregon. RSV is the leading cause of infant hospitalizations. And now COVID-19 has become a permanent fixture in our lives. It continues to circulate in our region with wastewater monitoring in Multnomah County showing persistent transmission. The virus that PPS got all of these air purifiers to address is still here. And in-room filtration with air purifiers reduces transmissions of all of these viruses that have caused severe illness for decades. Updating the climate and sustainability policy to add this environmental health guidance would help the district prevent respiratory virus transmission in our schools.
Thank you.
I'm Celeste Lewis, and I'm here for Comic Relief. I think I'm going to just speak out without a microphone. I'm here as a volunteer and a board member with the Eco School Network. I'm joined by fellow Eco School Network volunteers Kendall Kick and Carrie Bowie, and we are here to urge you to stop cooling schools with diesel-powered generators. Do we cool our schools with diesel air conditioners that blow their fumes into the sky? Those fumes then manage to get in the classrooms where children have nowhere to hide. I think we can do so much to protect them. Isn't this how it should be? Someday we'll stop it, the dangers from diesel for children and teachers and me. La 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 la. Thank you for your patience. And thank you for being here and serving our community. It's really a lot of work, and I'm very appreciative.
We could use more music in this room too, so thank you for that.
We'll be back next week,
Great.
okay?
Next on our agenda, we have an item brought forward by students from Lincoln High School. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to let Director Wong introduce you, and also just to know that Directors Sullivan and Wong worked with Lincoln students to come up with this policy. So appreciate the time that you're here. We know you could be a million other places, including at home, getting ready for dinner. So thank you for coming.
All right, thank you. If you remember a couple months ago, we had a couple of wonderful students from Lincoln come to testify about specifically the Administrative Directive 3.30.038 about the distribution of information materials, and how one of the outcomes of that is that it often felt, a lot of students felt excluded, and the impacts of that. As I was looking into it, one of the interesting things about this AD is that it sits under 3.30.035P, which doesn't really directly address the distribution or the posting of materials in schools and classrooms. And so I asked Dr. Armstrong if it'd be okay to reach out to, having been a teacher in the district for so long, I have some connections. I reached out to their teacher to ask if these students would be want to take part in helping write a new policy or an edit to the current policy, because there is really none. And so I said that I would help them write a policy and that I would help sponsor it and present it, bring it up to policy committee. I invited Director Sullivan as well, because this is in her district and you're also really interested in it as well. And we worked with the student group called Students for Peace at Lincoln High School with a couple of their teachers. So if you all could, I don't know how you can fit, but maybe if you would all like to come up here and present the policy that you've worked so diligently on. I think we have also the two teachers from Lincoln as well.
Yes, you can take the chair. Yeah.
Oh, we have another here. I'll bring this up here.
Let's teachers make sure we get a couple photos just to memorialize when we're all done.
Okay.
So we'll let you organize yourselves. We understand you have a presentation. We'd like to hear your process, your thoughts about moving forward and what you're presenting tonight.
Yes, thank you. Is this, okay, wonderful. I'm Henna, and I'm the president of Students for Peace at Lincoln. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm really excited to show you guys this policy we made with Director Wong and Director Sullivan. This has been a culmination of the last few years of my activism with Students for Peace. Since October 7th, we are a group. I created this group called Students for Peace, which is supposed to be a group to advocate for peace in the Middle East. And we are, after October 7th, I'm a Palestinian student, and I saw that for some reason there was this administrative directive that was passed. And all of a sudden, I see Palestinian flags be taken down. And after there was already not enough education on the topic, my voice wasn't getting heard in school. I see that Palestinians had no representation. And after that, Palestinian flags were taken down because of this administrative directive that said that all political speech, if not related to the classroom, had to be taken down. But it wasn't all political speech. Based off Lincoln and other friends that I've talked to from different schools, only Palestinian flags were taken down. I walked by in the hallway just today, I saw abortion is healthcare, Black Lives Matter, pride flags. But it's disproportionately taking down Palestinian flags. And this is it needed to be solved. It can be solved on the policy level, and this is why we're in front of you here today, because we're here to make sure that all voices are represented, that we're equal, that we embody the PPS values, that everyone is treated equally, everyone has their voice heard in schools. And I think that the first step is with flags. If a student sees their own flag be taken down, what does that send to the message of the student, to me? Does that send that everyone is equal and everyone is represented in schools, or does it say that maybe you're not welcome here? That you shouldn't be represented in schools like everyone else? Flags are a representation of their people. We might not like some of the things the American government does, but we hang the flag in every single classroom. So we're here to present this new policy that we made with Director Wong and Director Sullivan to reform this administrative directive that was that has been disproportionately taking down Palestine flags, and instead we are trying to make it so that we have inclusion of all voices, so that students are involved in the process of taking down, and that we can have different things put up in the hallways based on what the students, based on student voices, not based on what is deemed politically correct. Yes, of course.
Do I just press the, is it
Sure,
on?
and we'd love to know your name too.
Oh, okay. My name is Benjamin Switzer, Switzer. And with our policy, we tried to figure out what was the issue with the current policy that was going on and why it was allowing Palestinian flags to be taken down, or what was going on with it. And we tried to focus on the aspects of it that weren't working as well and we needed to fix. So our own teachers, like Mr. Bueller over here on my right, walked through the school on a few different days at Lincoln High School, and they noticed that whenever a poster is officially posted on the walls, it has to go through the process, and it will get a stamp from Portland Public Schools and from Lincoln. And what Mr. Bueller noticed is that the vast majority of those posters on the walls didn't actually have that stamp, which means that because of the fact that the process was so intensive to get these posters put up and yet was so discriminatorily enforced, it meant that a lot of students were going around the system and putting up posters wherever they wanted. So with that, we realized that it might be a good idea to, instead of having the process for putting up posters be more extreme, because then students would be encouraged to go around the system, decided that it would be better to have a takedown policy of sorts, where students would see posters on the walls and then there would still be an application process for putting them up, but the majority of the ones that would be taken down would be contested by students themselves or teachers in the case that they saw that it was perhaps political speech that was extremely out there or that was discriminatory of different voices.
Anyone else want to comment on your impressions, what you've learned, what you've noticed, witnessed?
I'm Della Sweeney. I think that for me, going into this mission, my main goal was to have students in, especially Lincoln High School, be represented in their classrooms. Education in schools are meant to be a safe place where students can learn. And if you're in a hostile environment that you don't feel is representing you, I think that really takes away from your education. So being able to work on this project with my peers and hopefully better the education of my peers, I think that's my main takeaway.
Thank you. There's a couple students we haven't heard from. Did you want to add anything? Lessons learned, what your observations have been?
Is this on?
Just a little closer.
I'm Everett Patterson, Patterson, and I just wanted to comment that in the policy that we are proposing, that the students will be encouraged to join the conversation in taking down the posters, and I think that it's a beneficial policy in that it could help the students actually talk about why these things need to be taken down, or perhaps challenge whether or their own beliefs about things. And I think that that's one of the things I really like about it, just that it can encourage education and thought about these types of things.
Thank you.
May I say something?
Please.
My name is Sneha Goyal. That is SNEHA space GOEL. To add on to what my classmate Everett said, one example we have of this, in fact, at Lincoln, was when a flag of Sudan was taken down because a student thought it was a Palestinian flag, and this was taken down without any discourse, any education being pressed, and anything being taught to the student. Whereas our policy, which strives to create some educational discourse would make it so that these instances would not happen anymore. And I believe that this is one of the reasons this policy so needs to be reformed, is so that students like these and future instances of this happening can be minimized. And so if a student were to see a Sudan flag and misbelieve it was a Palestinian flag, they can be educated about it. And yeah.
Especially in their geography class. Understand what the flag is. Hannah, we've seen you here before. I wanted to thank you for your leadership on this. This is so amazing. I love that the group is called Students for Peace. It's so needed right now. We need more peace, and my last name actually means peace. So I take the concept really seriously. I think what I'd like to do is have some discussion and questions from the committee members. And I'm looking over at Nora right now. Did you introduce yourself? You did introduce yourself. Okay, Nora's a new, as of tonight, student representative on this council. And she's from Grant. So I'm sorry if you said that already, but I'm just looking over at you. This would be the time to ask the students any questions about the policy, and then I'll wrap it up with some thoughts about how to move it forward.
Can I do another quick little just rundown of the actual policy really quick? And also would like to hear from Director Sullivan as well and your observations. One of the things I help support the students in doing, if you look at the actual policy where it says under policy, and then it's labeled 122, which I think was a copy and paste mistake. But one of the things that I help the students try to ensure, making sure that this policy was applicable not just to high school, but also to middle school and elementary school, and level appropriate. And so building in flexibility so that principals can fit this policy appropriately for their school. So if you see it with only 1, 2, 3, I think there's a total of 4 sentences total. It's pretty, trying to make it very flexible, but also as you know, with the goal, the policy should state what the goals are, right? And the goals here, I just want to read the first sentence, is that, two parts, right? One is for teachers. Teachers may post materials in classrooms that are educationally appropriate, conducive to learning, or inclusive. And what that does is that it allows things like, for example, flags, educational materials, but it doesn't allow things that are hate speech, that are exclusive, right? Number 2, as we looked into this, we found that there was already, when we're talking about policies for students to follow, there's already a lot of policy around in section 4 of our policies, which is around students. There's already student anti-harassment and, interestingly, teen dating policy in 1. And then second, anti-racist and anti-oppression learning community. So already with those policies, there was already covered a lot of guidelines on what can and can't be done. And then lastly, this is what the students were also speaking upon, was creating a system for principals and some flexibility in creating their own system that's appropriate for their age level. One of the things that the word that we put in here is that it should strive to promote, and the key word here is strive, to promote educational discourse, inclusive of effective and relevant perspective, democratic, student-led. So, for example, a kindergarten class, being student-led may not be the best idea, right? But a high school would, right? And so that's why there's flexibility built into this policy. And with that, I don't know if I can hand it over to Director Sullivan to name some points as well.
Well, I learned so much. I don't think I probably had many ideas. Eddie did a great job leading it about what a policy is, what you might put in a policy that made problems that you hadn't expected. So did a lot of talk about that. Just so many good ideas, and just working together to make it work. I mean, I was so impressed. So I can't say I helped you that much, except just to let you know that you're so appreciated in doing this work. And you teachers too, by the way. A lot of guidance, really good guidance. So thank you for including me. I really liked it, as I think you know.
We appreciate you so much as well.
I'd love to open it up to the committee members to ask questions, including our student rep.
I know Grant, our principal has a regulation where posters are not allowed to be put up or are allowed to be put up based on the type of tape, just so the school walls don't get damaged. Is that, like, would that still be allowed to happen under this policy?
Yeah, it's mostly about the type of materials that are put up. It's not about the way it's put up, or we actually talked about this. We mentioned how things are put on the wall. There's still going to be guidelines in each school. For example, you can't put things in the bathroom or draw things on the walls. There's guidelines in each school about this. It's mostly about the content of the materials that are going to be put up.
Good question about the adhesive, though, because in our modernized buildings, yeah.
So I wonder, it sounds like the two of you worked with the students to draft it. Has this gone through legal? Okay.
No, and I love the effort, but I think it has some, I'm happy actually, to the extent the board members would like it, to work with the committee and kind of share some of the legal parameters. I wouldn't want to do it in this setting, but there are a host of parameters and guardrails that you guys have kind of maybe blown right through, which are problematic from a legal perspective. And there are other ways to maybe look at it and get at what I think your interests are that maybe we'll get there. So I don't want to be the voice of pouring cold water on what I love, because I love seeing you all, particularly as a lawyer. I'm like, oh, these are all going to be lawyers in the future. So, sorry, I know, Stephanie, that's what, excuse me, Director Englesman, that's what you would.
Also, just to make this more comfortable, I did forewarn all the students and teachers that as we go through a policy, it goes through many, many, many iterations and may not come out looking anywhere close to what it was, or may not even pass. So that was a fair warning I gave them from the very beginning. So feel free to critique away.
I love that you're putting your teacher hat back on. That's so great. Did you have any questions for the students?
Not questions as much as comments. I really appreciate the student-focused nature of this policy and the educational component that goes along with it. I think anything that happens in our schools, including the environments, should be in service of students and learning and of interest to students and learning. And if something needs to come down, we should be having discourse about why that is, and that should also be a learning experience. So I'm not a lawyer. I think this is really great, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we can go with it to bring forward what the students are hoping to achieve while being compliant with the law. But good work, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I asked that question and then I didn't get a chance to follow up. No. I as a lawyer, and certainly a lawyer who has litigated our Constitution for over 20 years, I think there might be some issues in here, which is why I raised that. And I think if anyone is doing constitutional work at your high school, you maybe are thinking about this too. So I don't want any policy that we pass to have to deal with very real challenges to it. So that's why I brought that up, not because I want to thwart efforts, but because I want to make sure that efforts are not running afoul of, certainly in Portland, something that is so important. I don't know how we're going to proceed given this.
I have a recommendation.
Okay, maybe I'll save what I say next, depending on that.
Or you can finish what you'd like. I just want to, so we can move the meeting forward, I would like to recommend that the policy that's as proposed go through a legal review, and we can reconvene with the same group, hopefully. And yeah, I think that we'll look at, it's probably an iterative process where we'll look at what the goals of the policy are. Are we meeting the goals? What are the unintended consequences of the goal of the policy? But I think the legal review is a great way to go. If the committee is okay with that, and that would be just the committee, yes.
Can I just ask one question? This may be for legal as well. I think I'm not sure, but I think there may be some state laws as well that ban certain symbols or things like that. Is that something that could be answered for next time as well?
That's not ringing a bell, but yes, we will answer it for certain next time.
Okay.
I'm mostly worried, just so preview for y'all when we talk, that I'm mostly worried about the First Amendment implications, and so I can't think of a statute off the top of my head, but
Okay, but we can talk offline about it.
I will
or afterwards.
make sure.
So the plan is it'll go through a legal review, and I think that we've got representatives that can bring this back. So this might not be the last time we see each other, which is okay. I'd love to get a photo before you leave with the students and teachers. And really appreciate you. And again, I really appreciate the opportunity to provide a space for dialogue. I think that's really important. And I also think we need to, especially younger folks, exercise those muscles around speaking to people that you might not agree with 100%. So it's a good skill to have. So thank
Director
you.
DePass, may I ask for clarification? I just want to be sure and follow through. Normally, I would, or the legal team would give legal advice to the board, and then you all would work it from there. Is that what you'd like to do, or would you like, I guess what I'm offering, given the unique nature of it, is do you want us to reach out to the students and maybe hear a little bit more about their interests and incorporate back a recommendation? I want to respect the process. and I'm not
Absolutely.
clear.
I mean, if staff if you're willing to work with the students and perhaps with Directors Sullivan and Wong, that would be great. And it might be a great learning opportunity for everybody. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. And then we would like to see it back here. And I mean, most of the board is here right now, so.
Let's not forget that we have to ask their permission as well, right? Does that
Yeah.
does that sound willing to meet again?
Yes, of course.
Awesome.
Of course.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. So let's get a photo of the teachers and the students, and yeah, just to memorialize, and we can send you a photo.
How do we do that? What's the...
Just line up in front of the dais.
Okay. Oh, when they go in and then, oh, nice. Oh, that's cool.
It'll be, it's usually simple.
Can we go right here?
Oh, okay.
Oh, here, do you want me to say with yours? I'll take it.
Well, you take with yours as well.
Oh, no, I was gonna text it to you anyway. Dr. Sullivan, you're lost. Do you mind switching? You get lost in the, I want to make sure you're, there you go. Sorry. Yeah, thank you. I don't know everybody there. Perfect. Okay, one of those is going to be good.
Thank you.
Yes. Have fun. Thanks. Nice to meet you all.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good evening.
And thank you for the legal perspective. And a lot of us in the club were actually really interested in law. So, yeah, it would be really nice to have an opportunity to be able to come back and forth. Yeah.
So just while they're still talking, I just want to thank you for letting me introduce this. I think one of the reasons I approach the students and teachers is because students live in schools and teachers work there. It's their workplace. They are the experts for how things do and don't work. And I think approaching them was the way how I think about problem solving this.
Well, I want to thank you, Director Wong, and also thank the students from Lincoln High School for the time and thoughtfulness you've put into this effort. So moving along to our next agenda item, which is public contracting rules. In 2010, Portland Public Schools developed and adopted a substantial and comprehensive revision to its public contracting rules. Those rules were updated in 2012, 2016, 2019, and 2024 to reflect the legislative changes to the state public contracting code, ORS 279 A, B, and C. and revisions to the Attorney General's model public contracting rules. Senior Chief Tancre, would you please introduce the topic? Ms. Courtnidge. So the red line version that's linked
is going to be amended right now. Just one or two lines that are going to be left in there. You're not going to.
Okay.
Both. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead. Or Director DePass, can you share?
Yes, please. Yes.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for being here.
Sure. So you may remember we originally talked about these rule revisions back in September, October, I believe. I brought them when I was still in the role of Director of Purchasing.
Yes. Seems so long
So we're
ago.
bringing them back again, as we said, with a couple subtractions, and one of those is that 2A delegation. So the only changes we recommend at this time are really just a couple cleanup matters that weren't taken care of in the last rule update in 2024. So the first is to remove some amendment reporting requirements that are holdovers from some old experimental rules the board put in place, I think originally in 2016. Our practice in the purchasing and contracting department, and I know it's still their practice because I work with them closely, is to bring amendments that are over 25% or 125% of the original value approved by the board back to the board for approval. So this amendment reporting rule is sort of rendered obsolete, but it does cause a lot of confusion for staff and like how do we move forward. Again, the purchasing department's process has been consistent. It's also not a rule that mirrors anything in the Attorney General model rules, and we do try to adhere closely to those rules. And also, of course, reporting is less meaningful than seeking permission, because when you're reporting a contract, you're just reporting something that's already done and signed and in the works. So we recommend taking, just removing reference to that old reporting rule. So that's that one. And the second one is to bring our offer of judgment rule into alignment with the board policy on liability claims. So as you well know, the board has delegated authority and policy for settlements up to $75,000. And I think the last time we did our rules update, we just missed this alignment of the offer of judgment rule. It used to be in alignment with that settlement rule, and when that settlement policy was updated, the offer of judgment rule did not also get updated from 25,000 to 75,000.
Okay, I was just going to ask for clarification because I thought it was 25,000 and we're now updating it to 75?
That would be the goal. So to update it into to 75, which is also the policy rule on settlement agreements.
Okay, yes.
Yep.
I also noticed, it looks like it's been corrected on the first page. On the redlined version, the date should be 2026, and then I think moving forward, it should be, it's 2025, but should it not be 2026? It's just a typo, it looks like. In the header. It's in the header.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Do we have any discussion? Beyond changing the date, but the substantive pieces. Oops. computer is jumping around a little bit. I'm not able to stay on the page. There we go.
So, oops, just so I understand, 2A in the memo is for big G in the policy? And so for big G is not something that,
Yeah, where are you seeing the, oh, you're looking at the policy itself?
yeah, I'm just, if the staff memo is no longer recommending 2A, and 2A contracts paid from fee-based student fees appears to be the red line addition of 4 big G. Does that mean that 4 big G
Yes, if
is going to be struck from here?
the recommended changes, yes, and Roseanne has just posted online the corrected versions, and that has the corrected red line as well. So you wouldn't see that change referenced in 2A.
So that 4 big G is not in that newly posted?
That,
Yeah.
right,
Okay.
you're right, yes,
Okay.
you will see it there.
And so then not anymore. The only red line I saw was this 25 to 75, which is just aligning.
There is that one, as well as the amendment reporting rule, which appears in 3 different places.
Oh, right, that we talked about already, but yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It looks like the header is still off on the corrected version.
Yes, and I will
But
correct that.
that's okay.
Yes.
That's not the substance. Oh, I meant to jot down the page numbers where there were actual changes. They're quite a ways down. Let's see if we can find them. Let's see. So on page 10, under number 6, that's where we changed the $25,000 amount to $75,000. That's here. Page 10. There's several. I think there's 3 spots within. Should we go change by change? Does anybody have any questions about that change, which is aligning the authorization amount from 25,000 to 75? You're okay with that? You're okay with that? Okay, so we can say yes to that one. Gosh, I'm just going to scroll through. I'm sorry this is taking so long. I didn't have the pages written down. It's like page 190 something, or 160. I can't remember. Let's see.
Page 95.
95
has
okay.
the first one.
See if we can go here. Okay, page 95. We're striking 4, which to your what you just reported out is it's the reporting requirement. It's redundant because the changes of amendments of up to 125% of the original contract amount already come to the board.
Yes.
So, are we okay striking number 4 on page 95? I'm okay with it too. It's not redlined? Okay.
Sorry, I'm just trying to wrap my. So, I have a question that I think I'm going to be able to articulate, but I'm not sure. Add scope of what does So I know that the reasoning behind removing the reporting is because it's not in the Attorney General's model rules. But does the Attorney General model rules speak to how to deal with an excess to goods and services? Meaning, while they may not, the Attorney General model rules may not have a reporting requirement, it appears to me that in 2016, the amendment cap was put into place, and then in 2019, because of unintended consequences, that was taken away, and this reporting was put in place. But does the model rules from the Attorney General suggest an amendment in the first place? So like if we're taking away this reporting requirement, shouldn't we go back to what was in 2016? Does that follow the model rules for the Attorney General more?
So, sure. So if we take away this reporting requirement, we will be in alignment with the model rules. So it was purely an add. There was nothing deleted when it was added. So when we remove it, we will be back in alignment with model rules. And I would just mention, though, that model rules don't go into detail about board approval. They let each public agency determine how contracting authority will be delegated.
But, sorry, I don't think I was very articulate. If we remove the reporting requirement, we also removed the amendment caps. Are amendment caps spoken to in the model rules by the Attorney General?
No.
Okay. Okay, so then we would be we would be saying if anything between the approved scope and 125% just happens, and if it's 126%, then it comes to us?
Yeah, I would say it wouldn't just happen. It still goes through the whole contracting and amendment approval process, which is quite prolonged, and there's a review of, alignment with the underlying procurement process and scope and that sort of thing. So it's merely whether there's a report to the board, or as has been practice, it's really the amendment comes back for board approval if it hits that 125% anyway. So that has been the district's practice for years now.
If it hits 125, but if it's at 124, it doesn't then, district practice? Okay.
Right.
Are we then okay with removing that from what page 123?
I want to make sure.
Section 4?
Yeah, so the way that, I want to make sure I understand what we're doing.
I'm sorry, page 96, yes.
So we would be sending to the full board to discuss the policy. I want to make sure I'm doing it right.
Well, so our job today, just as a committee, is we can strike this and report out to the full board. I think that's the process.
So you report out to the full board that gets a first reading and then a second
reading in 3 weeks.
And then it would, through all those steps, at this point, if the three of you approve, or two of the three of you approve, it just goes to the board.
It'll go to the board. We'll have a first reading at the board meeting. It'll be open for 21 days for public comment. It's posted on the website, and if there is no comment, which is common, it would then have a second reading at a board meeting, and we would vote on it.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. While I think it would be appropriate to send to the full board for discussion, I have reservations about, frankly, doing this because we are in a budget crisis. I don't know that now is the time. I think transparency and oversight and sort of visuality of when a contract is higher than expected or higher than approved by a quarter, right? 100 to 125 is a 25% or a quarter increase. I don't know that now is the time to do that. I think it sounds like 10 years, since this cap was put in, and then 7 years since the reporting was put in. I understand that there are unintended consequences. I understand that there's work done, but I have reservations given the cuts we are about to make and the scrutiny that we will be under, that, and I understand the process that it goes on behind the scenes. I'm not minimizing that, but I have reservations that it will have, well, doing it now does not seem like the right time, so.
Okay. Our practice has been when a contract does go above, it's approved dollar amount, it does come to the board. But so do we want to hold off on this one piece? Because I think the other two are.
The alignment, the 75 makes sense.
Okay.
Aligning that. What's the other one? These are the other two.
I've
'cause
just written there are
4G
another
is
two.
going
So
away.
page
There-
124.
Yes.
Page 95, page 124, and page 183.
183.
Are all the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, so
it's really only two
Yeah.
substantive changes, one for the offer of judgment rule, and then
And
the
one
other
to
for this
remove.
125. So if you
Yeah.
want to move only the offer of judgment rule forward, we can take that direction. It's
why don't
just
we
two
do
things.
that? And then do you need more information, or do we need to figure out how to report? I mean, I'm looking at just workflow, and we have big projects going on that probably, I'm going to say we have seen a number of these contracts that do go over. It's very common to underbid. Or in older buildings, discover something behind a wall once it's opened up. So it does happen that it does, these changes and amendments do come to the board. So I'm wondering if there's a reporting requirement or something that would make it more transparent so you understand kind of, what the workflow looks like. I guess my fear is that we're holding up work that needs to be approved on contracts that they kind of need to keep moving through the system.
Well, I don't get the sense that that's what's happening. It looks like in 2019, based on those concerns, that the cap was removed and it was a reporting afterwards. Is that right?
Right, so
Yeah.
the cap is something different. It actually put a stop to
Yeah,
contracts,
yeah.
and you couldn't amend
Yep.
them at all, so you'd have to start over,
Yep.
which was highly problematic,
Yep.
and I spoken to that. So this is a reporting requirement, but what it does is cause some staff confusion, because in actuality, we're not just reporting, we're coming to the board and asking for approval. But we have this rule that says instead that actually we don't need to do that. Instead, we should just be simply reporting. And so it among internal staff, it causes confusion as is what is the proper process. And the purchasing department has consistently messaged out that if you're going to hit that 125% threshold, we need to go back to the board for approval. But then staff will point to this reporting rule, which sounds like that isn't actually required. So it's a bit of an anomaly.
In practice, contracts that exceed 125% come to the board currently, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is so out of my, understanding. I know what our practice is. I'm just wondering, what do we do to move this forward?
So a suggestion would be.
It doesn't have to be in its current iteration, but it does need to be legal, and it does need to be
right.
Okay,
So you
transparent.
could go ahead and move it to the board as is with Director Engelsman's comments. That's one option if I'm counting the perspectives. The other is for us to take it back and get a little bit more information on how many there actually are between. Really, we're only talking about contracts that exceed between 101 and 124. Get a sense of the scope of the matter and give you a sense. I'm moving out of legal here to practical. Give you a sense of the workload associated with it, and think through what the other thing I'm hearing as well is the lack of clarity for staff. So I think we've heard the discussion, and you could direct us to consider the discussion and either bring it back again with data or an amendment to it or a revision to it.
If we decided to move it forward to the full board tonight, could you still do that and have the additional information for the full board?
Sure, whatever you all ask. I'm just trying to give you
That
options.
was my question as well. So we can do both. If we can both move it to the full board for discussion and collect additional data.
About the basically the 101 to 124. What does that look like? What would be the impact? That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
From a governance perspective, the concern to be, and so we can talk about that and work with purchasing and contracting that owns it, and bring you kind of a little bit fuller picture of that impact.
Does that work for you?
I mean, it certainly, it would be information. I guess what I'm hearing is that there's confusion in the staff, which frankly feels like a management issue, to just say, if the contract is between 100.01% and 124.99, you just get to go through the process and then report and let us know that it went above, instead of, and then as soon as it hits 125, then it comes back to the board for approval.
I think there may be some confusion because the reporting rule only applied to contracts that exceeded the 125%.
Oh.
So we now have a reporting rule that requires reporting it, but instead staff are doing the extra thing, which is going to the board and actually seeking approval for those contracts. And so and instead of just a report after the fact. And so what I wanted to do was pull out that language that requires a report after the fact, because they're instead proactively seeking your approval. But that rule only applied to those that are above 125%.
So that's helpful, and I think I contributed to that by responding to Director Engelsman's question, so I apologize for that. Really only what we're talking about is, do you want to get reported on the same thing you've already approved? Is that a fair way to say it, Emily?
That is, and frankly, practice has not been to report, because going to the board with a substantive ask for permission is, I think staff has viewed that as a report in a sense, and fulfilling that reporting requirement.
I appreciate that clarity.
This is why I'm not a public contractor.
I think I'm even more confused now.
Well,
So let me see if I can just clarify. I'm sorry, Director DePass.
Please go ahead.
Oh, currently the policy requires any contract over 125%, that's going to go over 125%, come to the board for approval. That is happening. There's also this weird reporting requirement, I shouldn't say weird, hangover reporting requirement from prior rules amendments, that we are reporting to you on the same thing that you've just approved. And what we're recommending is taking that part out, because the contracts, if it's at 125 or more, it's coming to you for approval. And I think that the question is, why are we then making a report? Why is the staff making a report to you about the very thing that you've just approved? Does that make sense?
That is super
let
helpful.
me just triple check with our expert. Accurate? Okay.
Yes, that is
Simplified.
Okay. So then I have a new question. What happens to contracts that are between 100 and 124?
They go through the standard approval process when there's a proposed amendment and all the steps that I previously talked about. Those do not come to the board until cumulative amendments, if this happens, hit that 125% mark, and then we put a stop and come to the board for approval.
I can just say, so I used to work in purchasing, and it was horrible because it's so prescriptive, and it's very, in Oregon, for public entities, there's no gray areas. Well, maybe there are, but it's pretty cut and dry, and it takes a long time. I guess my concern is for staff time kind of doubling up on work or doing, not just because that's not effective, but because next year we will have fewer staff to bring this to the board and write a report and bring it to the board. And so I'm trying to think of not doubling up on efforts. I'm trying to think about ways we can be more lean in how we carry out our work. It's going to be really important. I've noticed just since I've been on the board, 6 years ago, we had 3 people to help with every thing that we had a request on, and we have quite a few less, and we'll have quite a few less next year. So if there's ways that we can streamline the work so that the fewer staff we have to do the same amount of work aren't doing things twice, that would be a goal of mine. And so I'm in favor of moving this to the full board and maybe having a discussion there.
I agree. Reporting on something that was just presented to us seems like a waste of time and inefficient.
We will be more crisp with the board about getting to that
Yeah,
very thing.
thank
We're
you.
reporting to you on the very thing that you just approved.
That doesn't,
That's, yeah.
thank you.
That's the.
I do wonder, and I don't know if now is the time to do it, or could I ask you, maybe we can work on an amendment, because I do wonder if a reporting should happen between the 100 and 124.
My suggestion, again, it's just a suggestion, is why don't you let us go and talk to purchasing and contracting and give you a fuller, rather than making an amendment now, let's
Right.
talk about what that really means and bring that back to you with fuller information.
Yes. Perfect.
So it sounds like we're going to recommend this to the full board with the additional information that answers the questions that you've got. So I think we're ready to move.
May I just clarify? I actually
Yes.
think you're just recommending this as is to the full board, and what I
Yes.
hear is a separate thing that will come back to the
Yes.
committee on the other, for 101 to 124 first before it goes to the board.
Yes.
Oh, no,
Was that your?
No, I was trying to be more efficient, and I thought that information about what happens between 101 and 124 could come to us in advance of that board meeting that we're going to, and based on the information that's brought, perhaps an amendment could be made in advance of the board meeting. Is that possible?
I think so. Yes. Again, I'm not a public contracting lawyer, so I'm looking at our expert, but yes, I think we can do
Yeah,
that.
it would be essentially a new rule rather than an amendment of this language. It would be new language altogether, or a new requirement, I should say.
Right. Right, it would be an amendment to this public contracting rule? Yeah, okay.
It sounds like we would approve this based on, well, the board might approve this, and then we'd have another rule that said up to 124.99%. What do we do with that? And that perhaps is just a report.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we need another rule for, I don't know how it's handled now. I mean, the board doesn't see every single thing that comes across
Right.
out of the district, so.
I think that's where you need a staff report. That's what I'm suggesting, is let's get
Yes.
a staff report to you so you have the information
Okay.
about everything from 101 to 124.9.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
you can do it.
And so, just so I'm clear, what do I call this? This is not a
It's public contracting rules.
rules,
Yes.
but they're PPS, public contracting rules, separate from policy. Okay, so I guess what I am hoping for is the answers to this of 101 to 124 to the board in time that I think I would make an amendment, so it's not a day of amendment, to this policy rule, to this rule.
You can just call them, the rules are really your policy anyway,
yeah,
so
yeah,
it's all the
okay.
same thing. It's board directed.
When it comes to the board, we would then have an amendment to talk about, and then if the amendment is approved, then it would all be voted on, right? Okay, that's, and granted, obviously, I don't know what information you're gonna bring, but, yeah, that's, I think, my intention.
Okay. Are you comfortable with what you've heard? All right.
I am.
I appreciate that. Sorry, this is a lot to scroll through. Our next item is our community policies. So as I've shared previously, under board policy 1.70.020P, we are supposed to review all board policies on a 4-year cycle. If you review the existing policies, you'll see many of them have not been reviewed in more than 4 years. I've asked staff to bring forward sections of the policy manual for the committee's review, which is a significant undertaking and will likely take the remainder of the year to complete. To make the work more manageable, staff has prepared initial red line drafts that focus on non-substantive updates, including formatting changes, correction of typographical errors, consistent capitalization, updated department names, and more inclusive language such as replacing he or her with they or them. In addition, staff have reviewed comparable policies at Beaverton, which is modeled on OSBA policies and Salem Kaiser school districts, and have identified differences based on those comparisons. Our original plan a couple of meetings ago was to start with Section 1, School Board, since it contains relatively few policies. It didn't appear to require public engagement. However, following discussion at our board retreat, it's clear that there's interest in broader governance development work, which should be reflected in those policies in Section 1. So I think it's better to have that work progress with the full board. We're going to move that Section 1 to the full board. With that in mind, we'll instead begin with Section 7, Community, with one exception, because we've already spent considerable time in recent years reviewing and revising Policy 7.10.120P, District-Wide Advocacy and Fundraising. This policy is not scheduled for a review, except for those changes I mentioned that are non-substantive, have to do with capitalization, modernizing language, and any grammatical errors. I think it makes sense to go through each policy and first review the suggested edits and see if there are any other issues or questions that come up for you that we can talk through at our meeting, at our policy meeting. Once we've agreed on revisions to a policy, we can refer it to the full board for a first reading. I'm going to recommend that we read through the Section 7 minus 7.10.020 regarding district-wide advocacy and fundraising, and come back ready to either approve or discuss further. And I'm going to recommend, approving if it's a capitalization. Let's just approve it, and then we can move it. I guess my concern is, we're halfway through the year, and I want to get some of this work done, only because these policies are older than 4 years, and our policy says we need to review these every 4 years. So I'd like to actually, complete some of that work this year, to the extent that we can. Is there anything that you'd like to add, Senior Chief Tancre?
No, ma'am.
I was recommending that we review the Section 7, except for the district-wide fundraising, and be prepared to discuss. And the next meeting. And so I would say kind of be surgical about it. Again, because if it's just modernizing language, capitalizing board and chair, that type of thing, then we should not, it shouldn't be up for a lot of discussion if it's just grammar. And that's all I have for today. I guess I should ask about any new topics. Oh, yes, please.
Really quickly, thank you so much for the shall will memo. And I think at the meeting where I raised concerns about shall will, you had suggested that we could just slip in language. And it sounds like from this very detailed memo that is the best case, right? So then it's all clear, right?
Right. I think we could argue about whether shall and will is different,
but this is just
let's
clear.
just make it clear.
Yep.
And so I don't think we have given you that language, but since you have that, I'm sorry, we haven't given it to you in a policy format. In the end, if you all are willing to do it, we could add that section at the very front just to make it a note and not put it in every single policy. That would be hard to read.
Perfect. And then the second question, at the last policy committee meeting, we were looking at 1, and then we had a sort of date of getting questions of February 6th, I think it was. And now we're not looking at 1. That's just going to go to the full board. I had sent some questions. Those will just become part of that full board process.
Well, Director DePass, can I take a so?
Yes, and I haven't seen him. Okay,
they were legal questions about the. So
okay.
My take of the work that you all are doing as a full board is that that is going to kind of supersede anything that we even recommended. And then once you all as a full board talk about that governance work and then tell staff what, I mean, that's truly you telling us what that ought to be. We capture it and then we would integrate any other changes at that point. So as I think about your questions, I don't recall them off the top of my head, but I think they're a bit moot until the full board decides the bigger issues that you all decide. Does that make sense? That it's
yes,
it's over there, and you'll come back to us with what you think.
It's work that from our last board retreat, it was really clear that we needed to do work as a group, as a team, to address some of those governance questions. And so we're going to be doing that. We have consultants, we've got people lined up. We just need to get everybody on board schedule-wise. And that work for Section 1 will happen at the full board level during those, retreats or extra meetings that we love those extra meetings. And so we've switched to Section 7. And same thing, if you could submit questions, if they're legal questions, I would love to be copied on any edits or changes. And again, if it's just a capitalization or grammatical, I appreciate us kind of moving that forward to the full board so we can get through Section 7 at least this year.
May I ask / offer a clarification? I think the work that you all are doing at the retreats would inform policies, but I don't think I wasn't thinking that was the use. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So then we would listen, I guess what I'm thinking, and I'm checking my understanding of what you need from staff. We would listen to what you all decide in those and capture them rather than have you going in those retreats through the policies. Is that?
That's exactly right. Yes. So the work of kind of envisioning how we work together and how we work as a board. Yeah, we'll be discussing them. We'll bring, yes. And you might even be in attendance at those, so you'll hear it firsthand. Are there any new topics? So the new topics that we've discussed for this meeting are the Students for Peace, and then the climate policy, which I have started kind of doing some investigative work on the climate policy, climate response policy. We do not have anything about indoor air quality in that policy, nor do we have an environmental justice lens on that policy. So those are Students for Peace, which is out of this committee's hands for now, and then the climate response policy, which you've heard testimony tonight about the indoor air quality and adding some language, the Moms for Clean Air.
Can I ask, I think it was TLE that I called into where was that TLE or Dr. Greathouse gave public comment, or was that?
It may have been facilities.
Facilities.
But it may have been
It was facilities.
I think okay. I called in and I listened to it, and someone, and I'm hoping it was you and you could answer me today, but maybe it's Director LaForte. Somebody was putting it on their agenda for future information, and so I guess I'm trying to Dr. Armstrong's comment a few weeks ago of like streamlining and making sure things aren't going a bunch of different places. If we are doing something here and Director LaForte already also said I'm going to do something there, should we just put it all there? I want to make sure it's not staff coming to two different
It's a really good question. It could live in teaching and learning, it could live in facilities, it could live in policy. The ask from the community is that the policy be changed.
Yeah, but I also wonder, because what I heard,
and I think we have people that are
maybe it does belong in a couple places.
They're coming in because it's not real clear how to advocate.
Yeah.
So they're coming, from very many angles as well. So
right.
I think what we need to decide is it a policy issue, is it a facilities issue, or both. I've just asked, actually starting today, about the costs for doing 6 to 12 air changes per hour, just from a facilities perspective, and if we can build HVAC systems that are able to be added to in the future to meet that standard. And actually, if that standard is, actually what we're trying to hit, can we do that with air filtration? So I'm asking those questions. What I learned today is that we can put anything in a policy, and unless we have a professional managing the maintenance piece, it's hard to maintain that. I can say that from my own experience in high-rise buildings, that it works if you have a full-time, engineer on staff to handle those air controls.
A clarification, I'm just looking at your policy on policies, and to the extent it's helpful, it contemplates that a policy change goes either to the full board in the process or the board committee responsible for policies. So to the extent that a policy originates from another committee doesn't mean it can't. I'm just trying to help you call out the policy. It probably, if you follow this, should probably stop here at some point.
Well, and it actually feels like, we've had the conversation in facilities, and we've heard, I can't remember if we've had it in teaching, learning, and enrollment, but we certainly heard testimony today about how it impacts learning. So it seems like policy would be the right place to advance that.
And then
now.
And then bring that to the full board.
Is there actually a written amendment or a written policy that's been prepared, or is that something that you all want to discuss?
That group has proposed a pretty extensive policy, and there is a report that we did not commission, but there's a report out there that tests some of our classrooms throughout the district.
I was really asking from follow through. What do you need from us, if anything, if it's going to come to the policy committee then? And if nothing, that's great. I just am not clear on what action might be needed from the staff for this committee.
I think there's nothing right now. I think that we need to do a little bit more research. We just passed that policy about 2 years ago after extensive public engagement. So
Yeah, and I wish I could propose a way to streamline it, but I think it also stays with facilities, because some of the stuff that's both in that report and that was talked about at that facilities meeting is that there may be, and I don't know, but that there may be, what are they called? Filtration systems available to us already that would be no cost to just implement into this, bring into the schools and literally park them in classrooms. And I think that's a different, a different approach than a policy change. This is just sort of finding materials we already have and putting them to good use that would be zero cost.
Yes,
So I think
that
we
we've
do have
already
to
paid
stay
for.
both places. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, if there's no new topics, and it's a good thing that there isn't, then I would say we're adjourned, and our next meeting is scheduled for March 30th.